final messenger speech of the play is a report about what happens off stage, and that final messenger speech, he relates about how Oedipus blinds himself and how Jocasta kills herself, and that the messenger calls Oedipus a father killer, and then he says, and a mother, and he stops himself and he says it's unspeakable. And that's a very interesting moment, because it suggests that there's something about language going on in the play, that language can't name everything that's happening. So the message says it's unspeakable. And so the play seems to be exploring the relationship between language and knowledge. How do we use language? Can we use language to know things? Precisely as Oedipus is trying to explore by questioning those around him, what's happening? Why is these beset by plague? So it seems that the play is saying that language isn't enough to know things. It's putting language into question. And yet, at the same time, words in the play seem to be saying too much. So Sophocles' language is so famous for classicists precisely because it's so full of puns, and this play is full of puns and full of games with language. And we all know that Oedipus's name means lame-footed, and that refers to him solving the riddle of the Sphinx. So we know that the Sphinx said, what is four-legged or four-footed in the morning, what has 2 legs or 2 feet in the afternoon, and 3 legs in the evening. And Oedipus famously said, a man, he's crawling at the beginning of his life, he's walking in his adult life, and he's an old man with a stick, 3-legged when he's old. So Oedipus's name refers to his knowledge, his ability, his capacity to solve that riddle that no one else could solve, saving everyone from the monstrous Sphinx. And yet the name Oidapu also means I know where, or I know whence, I know where I'm from almost. But that's precisely the point, is that Oedipus is the one guy in the whole of the theatre who doesn't know where he's from. So language means too much. The audience who know the story of Oedipus, they know where Oedipus is from, but they're enjoying the frisson of seeing this guy discover where he comes from. So language in the play both can't name enough, but also one single word, or words in the play also mean too much. So language means too little and it means too much at the same time. So the play really is exploring and problematizing the relationship between language and knowledge.
Right, yeah. Well, I think to go back to what to Freud, whom you mentioned at the beginning, you were saying that Freud was basically contending that this play is timeless and universal and speaks to the human condition in a way that no other does. And I think, of course, that is right for a modern audience. But what we've just been discussing, in light of your recent comments, this is a play that spoke very specifically to the interests of 5th century Athens, around knowledge, around discovery, and the way in which language problematizes all these issues is something that is very 5th century Athenian specific. So it is just, again, fascinating to think about how a play which now has these sort of modern resonances and a specific meaning to do with universality and the universal human condition actually meant something quite different in its original performance content.